I'm going to show you how to turn this pile of thrifted fabric into a dress pattern that you can do in one afternoon. Buying patterns can get really expensive, and even then, sometimes it can be hard to find exactly the right design you're looking for. That's before worrying about patterns fitting you properly, too. Patterning clothing can seem like an intense process, but it really just starts with a simple design. I'm working on a cosplay of Nyx from Hades, the game, and I want a base dress to build all of her accessories on. The dress design is not going to be the focus of the overall costume, as I'm creating a fabric overlay later, and she has a ton of accessories. So I want to keep the design of the dress pretty simple and easy to construct. I want the bodice of the dress to have a straight neckline. Her neckline does have a drape to it, but we're going to do that in the fabric overlay later. For now, we're just focusing on the base. For the skirt, I want to have a slight A-line with a slit to help with mobility. Supplies I'm going to need: a large pad of paper, a large marker, a measuring tape, a buddy to help with measurements. This is my husband's job, it's in our contract. A calculator. I promise I will hold your hand through the math. Your phone works though. A pen and a paper for your notes. Your phone works for this too. Whatever bra or underwear you want to be wearing. Plastic wrap, tape, fabric for the dress. Mine is a thrifted curtain. I've had it for a really long time and I don't know where I got it. Matching thread, ribbon for straps, glue to finish the edge of the ribbon, a zipper, an iron, and an ironing board. For the measurements, we're going to be taking them from the top to the bottom just to make it easier. We're going to go over bust, bust, which is just the widest part of like basically where your nipples sit, under bust, which is right where the bra strap sits, the waist, which is usually the tightest part of your waist, so like the most cinched in spot. On a corset, it's a little easier because it's the like anus bit. And then we're also going to take the hips, which is normally the widest part of your hip measurement. I also take the measurement between my waist and my hip measurement. This one is actually the out seam, which is from your hip down to your ankle or the floor. I don't show it here, but I also got the vertical measurements between over bust, under bust, bust, going all the way down. I told you I'd hold your hand. Stick with me. We're going to take our waist measurement, which for me is 28 inches, divide it by 5. That makes 5.6. That's going to be the width of our main panel, right? Put that to the side. Next, we're going to take our hips measurement, which is the 42. We're going to subtract that 5.9, so that waist divided by 5 we just did. Or it's 5.6, sorry, I can't read. 5.6. 42 minus the 5.6 equals the 36.4 divided by 4, which will equal our 9.1. The 9.1 is going to be the hip measurement for all 4 other panels we're doing. So our first panel is going to be the 5.6 in width all the way down. The length of that is going to be our outseam measurement, which I'm doing here in blue just for like simplicity's sake. So the front panel is going to be just a basic rectangle, easy peasy. The other 4 panels are basically going to be a little triangle, and we're going to do the 5.6 at the top and measure down 7 inches, and that's where our 9.1 is going to go. The 9.1 is going to be the width, 7 inches down from the waist. You're going to use the outseam to extend your lines on both that center measurement where we got the 7, and so you're going to have 3 connecting points at the end of the hem, and that's going to be your hemline. With that hemline, you'll see me here connect them with straight lines, and then when I go through, I curve the line, going outside the straight line that we designed. But as I'm cutting out the pattern here and like marking everything out, you'll see that I stick the 2 pieces of paper together. The pad I have basically are just post-it notes, and so they're really tacky on one end. They're not super tacky, but they're tacky on one end, so they just stick to each other really nicely, and then I use extra scrap pieces and tape it down for anything that goes outside of that, like this little corner here. So straight line, when I cut it, it'll be a curved line. We're going to cut 4 of these pieces. You're doing beautiful. Before I cut the pieces out, I go ahead and reinforce any of the seams with tape, just to make sure that the pieces stay in place. This is me making the front of the skirt piece, and like I said before, it's just that rectangle. I'm just using extra pieces to extend a little bit because my pad is not quite the 37 inches of my outseam, and so we just extend it, cut down. I mark the slit to end at 11 inches from the waist measurement, but I end up taking that higher later, and you'll see that in just a minute. Next, we're going to take the plastic wrap. This technique has been used a million times in cosplay, where you wrap a body part in plastic wrap and then you wrap it in tape, and that gives you the idea of the shape that you need for a draft. Keep watching, it ends up not working, which is okay. That sometimes happens, but the technique is really helpful in a lot of materials. It's just I don't know why it didn't work here. It just made it too big for me. And then you're going to take a marker and you're going to mark out seam lines and where you want seams to be. I think this technique is better used for armor. When it comes to fabric, it's a little complicated. I also, to be honest, did cut my pattern pieces a little big, and that sometimes can lead to inaccurate sizing. But I'll show you how I fix it. I should have known better. I've never made sewing patterns this way. I don't know why I did it this way. If you decide to go this route and use the tape pattern pieces, you totally can. Just trace them onto paper. In my notes, I was like, add a 1/4 inch all around for your seam allowance. With as big as these pattern pieces are, I actually wouldn't do that in retrospect. But that's a part of drafting patterns, is you kind of have to redo it 2 or 3 times to really get it right. I did mark out different sides of the pattern pieces so I could make sure that I labeled everything correctly and had the right way up and everything. With cutting out fabric, you saw it with the skirt, you want the grain line going the same way on the entire dress. It'll help a lot with how the dress hangs, but also it keeps like the stretch consistent across the dress. If you have extra fabric, I actually recommend taking a small pattern and sewing it with the grains going all kinds of different ways, especially on a stretchier fabric. You'll notice I utilize my floor a ton for cutting out fabric. If you have the table space, it's phenomenal. Not everybody has like tables at home, and it's just not realistic for most hobbyists to even invest in one. As long as you have a flat surface, you're really totally Gucci. It's fine. You'll pin the fabrics right side together. The right side is just the fabric that you want facing out when you wear it, and so you'll pin everything right side together, so when you come here and you stitch it together, you'll be sewing on the wrong side of the fabric, so then the seam is on the inside when you wear the garment. Ironing the seams flat is imperative to making everything lay smoothly. I'm not 100% on ironing everything every time, but it does really affect everything in the final lay of the fabric. With the straps here, we are just using like a PVA, I don't know, PVA, like Elmer's glue, basically. It's a knockoff Elmer's glue brand. We're literally just gluing the edge so it doesn't fray. You can use any kind of glue you want for this. I like Elmer's glue because it's cheap and it dries clear. For sewing the slit, I go up the ironed flat seam, keep my needle in the fabric, lift the foot of my sewing machine, rotate the fabric, keep the needle in the sewing machine again, in the fabric again, lift the foot and rotate the fabric again, and then continue sewing it. For the rest of the sewing, it's really just stitching straight lines, and I always make sure to take the pins out before sewing over them, because I've broken many a needle and many a pin. Especially the older your needle gets, you're supposed to change your needles pretty regularly. We all know we do that less than we're supposed to. Just don't sew over your pins. Your needle will last longer. Your pins will last longer. It also won't create sharp edges on your pins. For the zipper, I sew it on by first closing the zipper, pinning it to the fabric on one side. So you start with the zipper closed, load it into the machine. I always put the needle down and then lift the foot up and bring the zipper down, and then sew just enough to secure the top part of the zipper onto your fabric. Put the needle into the fabric, lift the foot up, close the zipper so it's all one piece again, and then sew the rest of the piece down. And I do basically the exact same kind of thing we did with the slit on the skirt with the bottom of the zipper, just to help secure it into there. Okay, I mentioned the slit just a second ago. I moved it up. I felt like the 11 inch from the waist wasn't. I just put the dress on, pinned where I wanted the slit. You can see me testing out leg movement here, and if that works.
So the issue is there's all of this that's like 4 inches on either side of the zipper.
Okay.
And when I put the corset on, it's just going to be more. So what I need to have happen is on either side of this, I need you to pin, this entire back panel was useless. Focus up here,
Okay.
and when you get to the top, it's going to be more up here. Because it took really, I sewed it too wide here, and so there's like 2 fists of extra boob, and there's no way I'm getting that much extra boob in. So instead of me repinning everything, I'm actually just going to restart the bodice and do the exact same thing I did to figure out the skirt measurements, but with the bodice pieces. So we're going to do that math real quick. We're just going to start over on that piece. The skirt, phenomenal. Love how it fits. It's beautiful. The skirt fits really well and I think is very flattering. I will probably do a ruffled edge on it just to help give some more body to the skirt with the overlay later. Because the bodice is like super off, we're just going to redo that and go from there.
So this part of the pattern making process, I started very similarly to how we did the skirt, with the rectangular pattern with the 1/5 of the waist measurement going all the way up. It measured to about 10 inches long, like from the top of the hem down, and so I did some math to work through. I actually, when I cut off the piece of the bodice up top, I did some measurements and math with that too. Instead of having the 7 pieces for the bodice, I moved it to the 5 pieces. I cut out everything in paper and then did a centimeter mock-up version so I could kind of get an idea for how it looked. The rectangle part looked a little too harsh of an angle, so to smooth that out, I actually widened a portion so that the bust would create this like bloated rectangle. So the bloat from the rectangle I essentially took from the side bust pieces to soften that edge some. I took my measurements that we took at the beginning and did math to break that down a little bit more. The math is not going to be as even as the skirt, which is why I don't have it as clearly broken down here. I know the general ratio, but you may need to draft it a little bit, and you may need to take the patterns we made earlier and adjust it some based on the fit of your draft.
The bodice by itself actually stays up pretty well, and so it's not really like a big deal, but we fixed the bodice. That's the important thing today. We fixed the bodice, and I do like how the crossed straps look. The back's going to be covered anyway, so it's not really a big deal. It's really how it sits up here, but I digress. Bodice is fixed. Zipper fits nicely. I did gather little parts here and here on the skirt just so that it fits a little smoother, and then I'll have a drape here.
So I said the zipper fit perfectly. I was lying. We're actually going to take the back top hem seam down a couple inches. So the zipper is actually going to be cut by like 3 inches because with my massive lats, apparently, I don't have space. I didn't measure properly for me flexing and moving. It's something I'll have to take into consideration in future measurements. However, once we get the point that I want the seam to go to marked out, I just basically folded everything down and made it even on both sides, and then stitched a straight line there. And then we're going to treat it exactly like we were before and sew the straps on. I do go over the straps like 3 times, one going forward, and then I back stitch, and then I go forward again, just to help with security.
Did it. So the dress is set. We've got it good. It's like fitting, functional, good. I can start building pieces over it now. I have a wig that I'm going to dye. I have some pieces to make for like the chest here, and I'm going to start ordering fabric actually, because we're getting into holiday shipping. This video took me like 3 weeks to actually put out. However, making the dress really only took like a day. It's just I had to work through how to work through the math, and sometimes you have to budget time for that. We did it though. Dress is made. I can build the rest of the costume on top of this now. The rest of it is going to be a lot more foam, which is going to take some learning for me personally. And then the fabric pieces will be really easy. So, like I said, I am going to do like a ruffled hem here, just to add some more body to it, but also to add a little bit more length. But it'll be good. It'll be cute. It'll be easy. I'll take clips of that as I do it. But for now, if this video is helpful in explaining patterns, I know dress patterns are on the easier end of the pattern making spectrum. We'll probably do like a pants pattern sometime. If it was helpful in any way, please subscribe. I'll make more of these. If you're looking for something else to watch, here is body painting video. I did a panel at Salt Lake Comic Con where we talked about this, and then I put it into a video for you guys. But I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!